Appreciate you guys. Hour number 2, you'll have a chance to win a gift card to the James during Rock Jocks and Pop Culture. Later this hour, you heard the big man's voice, College Football Hour. We welcome you, Prater in the ball game. Let's head to our Fat Guys Fresh Deli hotline. One of our favorite guests. He's the Weezer Wizard, and he knows more about BYU football than anybody we bring on here. The pride of Weezer, Idaho, former BYU and NFL offensive lineman, and now with Scotty G. Hans and Scotty G on 1280 The Zone down in Salt Lake, KSLSports.com. Hans Olsen with us. Hans, thanks for the time today. How are you, pal?
I'm not going to lie. I thought you said, let's get out to the fat guy. And I was like, uh-oh.
That's what he calls me. So you're good. You're good, Hans.
No, you're big, like, Hans. You're not fat. You're
wow. Big. Yeah, I'm big. Look, I'm still rocking about 16%. So I'm trying to keep it under wraps. Well, tell me a little bit about this fat guy subs. What's this all about? That sounds really good.
If you ever get a chance, order the Italian Hansies.
No. The silver duck. Go for the silver duck.
Well, tell me a little bit about both. I mean, boys, this is my avenue. What's the duck all about? What are we starting with? Is this a hoagie or is it a rye bread? What are we talking about?
It's a little rye bread, little roast beef, little Havarti cheese, little sprouts, some magic sauce.
The silver duck? Yeah. Pesto mayo, roast beef, pastrami, horseradish, Havarti cheese, sprouts, you name it.
Oh, hell
the silver duck has it. Oh, Hans.
Oh, yeah.
Make me smarter about BYU this season. Put this season into perspective. It's obviously been cut in half, the good and the bad.
It's been a brutal 4-game stretch. One of the worst I've seen since I've been covering BYU football going back to when I retired in 2007. And it really goes to the defensive side of the ball. So I ran some numbers today, guys. So the worst team in the country in third down conversion defense is 53%. That's the worst in the country. It's Colorado. It's 53%. It's terrible. BYU in their last 4 games is giving up 64% on third down conversions.
Wow.
It is as bad, abysmal, embarrassing, and dreadful as you can imagine. And it's happening in really just a couple of different forms. And primarily it's coming off of no ability to rush a quarterback. BYU's got 9 sacks on the year. 9. I think Boise State's got like 24 or 25. BYU's got 9. They can't get to the quarterback. They can't contain the quarterback. And they also cannot control gaps. So it is all the bad things that you could think of defensively. It's happening for this BYU defense, and it's maddening.
Whose butt do I put in my briefcase? I like to point the finger, Hans. Is it Satake? Is it a coordinator? Is it just a lack of personnel? Have they been bit with the injury bug? Who do I blame here?
Well, it's a great question, and I wouldn't even say they've been bit by the injury bug. They've had a couple of guys that are banged and bruised, but not enough to say, oh, guys, this has to do with the MASH unit. It's not that. So everybody's been trying to answer that exact question. Where do we go to? Who's to blame? Is it Satake ultimately? I think that there's a lot of blame to go around. I think everybody's got a little bit of blame stacked on them. Now, the obvious one that everybody's going to go to is Elisa Tuiaki, the defensive coordinator. But I don't think that's where the buck stops. I think that it continues on to Ed Lamb, who is really in charge of recruiting. And has really, I think, had a big hand in implementing this style defense that they run, which is primarily odd front. But it's a mix and match. It's a whole array of different things that you find in this defense. And then I think you can go right to the defensive line and say there's issues there. I will tell you guys, they're trying to jumble the staff. They took the defensive line coach, Preston Hadley. They put him back at safeties. That's where he played in college. They took Elisa Tuiaki, the defensive coordinator, took him off the coordinating and put him on the defensive line. Kalani Satake took the coordinating back. They took Kalani is now helping Coach Clune with the linebackers. So there's a defensive shuffle. It's not as dramatic as what you guys just did with Dirk Cutter there in Boise, but it's supposed to be pretty dramatic, and you're hoping it pays off more than it did against ECU.
Talking Boise State, BYU with Hans Olsen, Salt Lake City radio personality, 1280 The Zone, KSLSports.com. You can follow him on Twitter at 975HANS. I suggest you do that because if you don't know, Hans is a film review whiz kid. You're a junkie. I wish I was as smart as you, dude. And you broke down some film today of Boise State. So let's take what you just said about BYU's defense and apply it to what you saw with Taylor Green. What happens on Saturday?
I love Green. So tell me this. When Cutter came in, did he bench Bachmeier and put Green in, or was Bachmeier hurt? What happened there?
Those are the 24 black hours that they will never share any details that we've been trying. There was a gray area there where they were trying to figure out. No, to answer your question, Dirk Cutter made no decisions, but there was a 24-hour period where Hank Bachmeier wasn't sure what was going on. And at one point, a phone call was made to Cutter that said, "You're coaching Hank Bachmeier." 24 hours later, he got a phone call and said, "You're coaching Taylor Green."
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, some of those things happen behind the scenes, and you never know. But let me tell you, Green shows a lot of promise, and he's really nice in that Cutter offense. And there's a couple of different things I really like. First of all, I think that he's got a really nice pocket presence. When the pocket gives him the opportunity, I think he's got a really nice pocket presence. Against Colorado State, he was slicing and dicing. He was picking apart zones like there was no tomorrow. It was really pretty. The other great thing with him in zone read is he's so shifty, and he is extremely hard to get your hands on, not let alone try to wrap up and bring him down. And I know he only had 13 yards or something like that, 16 yards against Colorado State, but holy cow, he is really a beautiful up-and-coming quarterback. And what I love is some of the big packages that Cutter has put in. And I don't know who that 98 is that comes out of that fullback position, but he's hurting people. And who is that? Who do they bring out of the fullback?
Herbert Gums, man. That kid played running back in high school, as crazy as that sound in Texas. But yeah, that's their refrigerator Perry, Hansy.
he's opening up cans, and it's fun to watch him. So as far as Green is concerned, I think he is the exact quarterback that BYU is really struggling against this year. And I don't think BYU is going to put a ton of pressure on him. And he can obviously pick apart a drop 8. And he can also work really well when contain isn't in order. And those are all the things that BYU is really struggling with right now. So he's got an opportunity in front of him.
On the flip side of the ball, Hans Olsen, Jaron Hall. I mean, he's still a dangerous weapon for BYU. Maybe he can win football games by himself, the way he plays football. Yeah. What kind of football season is he having, and how dangerous can he be against this Boise State defense?
Well, things were on track for him to be a nice NFL prospect, a potential top 2, top 3 round draft pick. Everything was looking really good. That Baylor win was really big. He showed so well, and he's suffered a couple of nicks and dings, and I think that he's toughing it out for the team right now, and I think it's showing in a lot of different things. Go back 2 weeks ago against Liberty, and yeah, BYU lost to Liberty on the road, and he just didn't have the health to really get out of the pocket and run, and when he doesn't have that threat, that takes a little bit out of his arsenal. It got a little bit better against ECU, but still he feels limited to the pocket, and he slides early. And whatever he's injured has slowed him down a bit in his passing. He only had 9 completions against Notre Dame. So there's been some ups and downs. But I will tell you, I'm hearing that he's healthier now than he's been in the last 4 weeks. And you keep your fingers crossed that he is, so that we can see a really good game. I really want a good game. I love good games on that turf and that stadium. BYU and Boise State standing toe to toe. And you're right, Prater. He 100%. He absolutely single-handedly can keep a team in the running. He's that good. He's a brilliant quarterback. when he's healthy and he's confident.
21 touchdown passes, just 3 interceptions this year for Hall, and he's completing 66% of his passes. I mean, I know they have high expectations for quarterbacks down there in Provo, but he's certainly, statistically speaking, up there with just about anybody in the country right now for efficiency. Hans Olsen with us right now, covers BYU, played for BYU in the NFL. Check out Hans and Scotty G down there next time you're cruising around in Salt Lake area. Hans, the rivalry, I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite BYU versus Boise State memory? We talked about this yesterday, and we kind of shared it from the BSU perspective. I like the BYU perspective now. Do you have one?
Well, I've got some memories, that's for darn sure. I never played a game against Boise State, but I'll never forget. I had a bye week when I was with the Colts. I had a bye week, and I came back to Idaho because my wife and I had bought a home in Meridian, and came back for the bye week, and it just so happened Boise State and BYU were playing, and it was still brand new to me. Like, geez, BYU's playing an Idaho team? That's crazy. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get all geared up in BYU gear. I'm going to head out to the game. This was 2002, maybe 2003, somewhere in that range.
Yep.
So I get all geared up. I'm in my BYU gear, and I got a couple of tickets right there in the middle of the Boise State fan section. And I was about 315 pounds and just rocked up and sitting right in the middle of everybody, like, let's bring it. Anybody wants to bring it? I'm amped up. Let's do this, and getting ready to celebrate. And BYU. And I got to mention this. I believe it was Croton at the time, and he asked me to speak to the team pregame.
Nice.
So I'm in the locker room, and I've got the entire BYU football team, and I apologize to everybody in Idaho for this, but I was sitting there in front of the BYU football team, which I played for, and I said, one thing I know for sure, BYU will never lose to an Idaho team. And so that was my pregame speech. So here I am in the stands, and I think the kicker's last name was Payne.
Yep.
And he lined up for a kick, and I can't remember if it was blocked or if he missed it, because I was up and out of my seat and out of that stadium before it missed through the uprights. I was gone, just as quick as I could get up and leave. It was a brutal loss, and I was peeling off my sweater on my way out, thinking, what in the heck? They just lost to Boise State, and that was an eye opener for me. It was a pretty incredible moment.
It was a 1-point game, 28-27, 12 games in this series. 3 of them have been decided by 1 point. I don't care if they're close. I don't care if they're in the middle. I don't care if it's blowouts. This is the best game on Boise State's schedule every year. Hans, I'm putting you in charge of getting Boise State back on the BYU schedule. How do we make this happen? Because it's probably not going to happen, is it?
It's probably not going to happen. And it's really tough because I want Utah State on that BYU schedule. And obviously, I've got all kinds of ties to Utah State, and I always loved playing that game.
Yeah.
And Utah State can't even get on that schedule anymore. It's going to be really difficult with this Big 12 entrance. And I think that BYU's got themselves in a position now going into the Big 12, especially in the first 5-6 years, where I know that the formula is typically an FCS team and then a lower end FBS team, and then maybe one Power 5 team as your non-conference. But I think BYU should really slow things down as much as they can, because with Texas and Oklahoma still playing in that conference for the next 2 years after BYU gets in, so 23 and 24, there's a good chance they have to see at least one, if not both. And they have to get used to that road schedule. You know, they may end up in West Virginia. Who knows how far they're going to have to travel. So it's going to be really difficult. So I wish it too. I do, because I've fallen in love with this. Obviously, Idaho has my whole heart. I love it. Grew up there in Weiser and love Idaho. And I would love to see this rivalry continue, because I do think it's built into a rivalry. I really do. It's been back and forth, and it's always a brutal game. But I just don't know how it gets done, Prater.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Very well said. And I think I know you well enough to know that you love underachieving athletes with big hearts, athletes who do big things. And I can't let you go without discussing our Utah Jazz. Holy cow, they're 6-2 hands. What happened to this roster?
I don't know, man, but I'm going to encourage both of you to sit back and watch this Jazz Dallas game tonight. Little Luka Doncic versus Lauri Markkanen. See what Reggie Bullock can do against a guy like Lauri, or having to match up with Vanderbilt. This Vanderbilt dude for the Utah Jazz is a no-nonsense, just haymaking thrower, crazy dude, and I love him. And, you're looking at those Mavericks with Dinwiddie, who's so shifty, and a Mavericks team that knocked the Jazz out of the playoffs.
Yep.
And it was Dallas last year that put the whole rebuild into a consideration, getting rid of Donovan Mitchell and getting rid of Rudy Gobert and changing the whole thing out. And so tonight's a big one against Dallas. But 4 of the 6 wins that they've got right now are against playoff teams.
Yep.
And so we're all sitting back, kind of scratching our heads. We're the flagship of the Utah Jazz out here in Utah, and we're all just sitting here thinking, holy cow. We thought we were going to have to make lemonade out of some pretty ugly lemons, but here we have ourselves a really fun team to watch.
I love it. Well, Hans, enjoy what we hope isn't the last time these two teams play on Saturday, although it looks like it is trending in that direction for quite some time. Say hey to Scotty G for us, KSL Sports, Hans Olsen, the Weezer Wizard. We appreciate you hanging out with us, Hans.
Hey, love you both, man. You guys do an amazing job. Idaho's lucky to have you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks buddy. Appreciate you. Love you, bud.
Great stuff with Hans Olsen.
I love that guy.
You had to get that Jazz question in, didn't you, pal?
It's the story of the year, baby. It's the story of the year. Although that Luka Doncic that smirk on his face, I hope they wipe it off his face tonight.
My Blazers too, man. I think they're 6-1, 5-1, something like that too.
They're right there, and I love watching the Blazers play. So
crazy.
Jazz Blazers are 11-3 combined.
I'm like Hanson, just kind of scratching your head, waiting for kind of the whatever it is to drop and be like, okay, back to life, back to reality. Here we are. We're a lottery team, but
it'll probably happen.
Enjoy it while you have it. The handling of Taylen Green, Prater. Where are we going next?
Yeah, let's talk about Taylen Green. Had an NIL picture of eating some free pizza with his teammates this week, and let's hope that that's the first of many. How can the Boise State football family take care of Taylen Green for the next couple of years?
We want you to chip in on this too. Obviously, keeping Taylen Green is going to be a big topic moving forward for Boise State. That's just the nature of the game right now. You need to recruit your own players to stay. How does Boise State, how should they handle Taylen Green as a part of this football team, obviously moving forward? We'll talk about it. It's the College Football Hour continuing on Prater and the Ballgame.
From the Beacon Plumbing Traffic Studio.